Welcome to the Gabriel Method Show. I'm John Gabriel, author and creator of the Gabriel Method, a diet-free approach to sustained weight loss. And we're excited to be launching the premiere of Lose the Stress, Lose the Weight, Tapping for Weight Loss. As part of the launch, I'm very pleased today to be joined by tapping expert Brittany Watkins. And we'll be discussing Brittany's work, which is very unique work, and then do a tapping session together live. Brittany is a weight loss coach, author, and one of the foremost experts in emotional freedom technique for emotional eating and weight loss. Her popular teleclasses and online programs teach people how to apply specific scientific techniques to eliminating binging, food cravings, and other forms of emotional eating. Her approach to weight loss clears the underlying emotional drivers that cause disordered eating, pinpoint the root of the problem, and reprogramming negative thought patterns. Her book and online multimedia program, Skinny Jeans, reached over 2.5 million people with fantastic and lasting results. Brittany struggled with food cravings, emotional eating, and over 50 failed diets before discovering tapping, which allowed her to lose weight in months and keep it off for good. To find out more about Brittany and her work while we're talking, go to BrittanyWatkins.com. So, Brittany, thanks very much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your own personal history with weight and dieting?
Yeah, I was a yo-yo dieter for a long time, I think as most people who struggle with their weight are. And I figured out that I was an emotional eater around the age of like 18 and started to read books about emotional eating. But none of the techniques or the strategies that people provided ever worked for me. And so I started to, I discovered tapping. I was introduced to tapping, and I started to use tapping to overcome my emotional eating. And that still took a while to figure out the exact strategies to get to the root cause of the emotional eating, because it's not always clear.
Sure.
But, once I did, a big part of my history was having sexual abuse in my past. And so once I was able to clear those emotional traumas, the weight just fell off.
So our experience is that when you've had abuse like that, it very often triggers weight gain. As a matter of fact, I would say that maybe 50% of the women that I work with that have had serious weight issues can trace it back to that type of abuse. It's a very, very common issue. So how were you able to use tapping to help deal with that? Because we're always looking for strategies to help resolve those type of traumas.
What I teach in my so I have a coach certification program for people who want to learn how to use tapping specifically for weight loss. And one of the things that I have them focus on is the tell the story technique. And we do it a little bit differently. But, basically what you do is you just have to relive the trauma. And as uncomfortable as that is,
Yeah.
That's really the best way to clear out that trauma.
So how do you do that? You do that by telling this, by the person's actually telling you the story, or what's happening? Because this is important, Brittany. Let me just say, we're in this series that we're doing right now. We're interviewing a lot of tapping experts, and no one's saying what you're saying right now. And this really speaks, I think, to the root of the issue for a lot of people. So maybe you could go into detail about what it is that you're doing.
I would say, and I always say this, and in my classes, obviously you don't want to jump right in with sexual abuse,
Yeah.
but I would say that about 80 to 90% of the women that are in my courses have been sexually abused. And it doesn't have to be, sexual abuse in the way that we're all
Sure.
taught about sexual abuse. It could be somebody made a weird comment to
Exactly.
you on the playground, or, I'll never forget my mom telling the story about this boy in school who said that he had sunglasses that could see through her outfit.
Yeah.
And, just little things like that. That can be a form of sexual abuse. And so I always tell people, if you have anything like that in your past and you really truly want to lose weight, you have to address those things.
It's a boundary violation. I had one lady describe it was as simple as she was maybe 13 or something, and her father's friend was just looking at her the wrong way. And it just felt uncomfortable, and she was not comfortable with the beauty that was emerging from her as she was growing. She just was not comfortable with it after that. It could be as simple as that, and I could not agree more that you have to address that issue.
You do. And in my experience, if you have any kind of sexual abuse in your past, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll never be able to lose weight if you don't. It's rare. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Ever...
Well, what happens is this. People will, maybe let's say if they've gained 50 or 100, let's say they've gained 100 pounds, they might lose 10 or 20 pounds. And then someone will say, oh my God, you look amazing.
Yeah.
And then they'll freak out and they'll have this big binge. And then they say to me, oh, I self-sabotage, my body's out to get me. I said, no, this is just self-preservation. And you've got to get to the place where you feel comfortable with with losing the weight and being as beautiful as you want to be before your body's going to let you lose the weight. Otherwise, your body thinks it's trying to protect you from some sort of threat. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
So I couldn't possibly agree with you more.
Yeah, and the way, I don't know how advanced the people are that are watching this. When you're dealing with sexual abuse or the tell the story technique, I always recommend that you work with someone. Often
Yeah.
the beauty about the tell the story technique is that the other person that's helping guide you through it can notice when you'll tend to skip over the really traumatic parts.
Right.
As a practitioner, what your job is to do is to actually slow down, during and go through the traumatic point
Right.
in slow motion. And so
Right.
that's really the trick. And it can be really, you're bringing up the trauma again, you're reliving it. And so most people really don't want to do that. But, for people that are really motivated to lose weight, once I tell them this strategy and I, give them to a good coach, or if they're, under good guidance, they're ready to go for it and the weight falls off.
So just to use that lady as an example that I just said, where she's 13, her father starts looking at her the wrong way. So she's going to be telling this story. She's going to be saying and tapping while she's doing it. She's going to be, he's looking at me the wrong way. I hate the way it looks. I'm not comfortable. That's really, is that how it's happening, or can you give me an
Well,
example?
sure. So the tell the story technique is always a specific event. So tell me when you remember a specific, and maybe he did it a lot. And so,
Yeah.
with sexual abuse, that's always the thing. It's, maybe it was something that was ongoing for years and years. So the beauty about tapping is that you don't have to remember every single time it happened. What you do have to remember is just the big ones that stand out in your mind.
Yeah.
And so, if she could do her best to remember a time, maybe it was the first time, or maybe it was, a time that she felt the most violated from him, and just go through the story, and you start from before there was any problem. So, maybe she's just in her room and she's doing her homework and then her dad walks in. So you want her to start telling the story when there's no emotional charge. And then when her dad starts coming in, there might be a little bit more emotions that'll come
Sure.
up to the surface. And then once we get to the part where he's looking at her funny, she'll probably be, you guys have probably heard the scale from 0 to 10 a lot.
Yeah.
She'll probably be at a 10. And that's where you really want to stick. And then you can do some tapping around,
You
he's
stay
looking.
and you stay at that point until that goes down to like a 3 or something like that, and then you move on to the next part of the story. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? I see.
Yeah.
And then there might be multiple times, right? So there's another time, a year later when she's out on a date or something like that, and you go to that story. So you try to you deal with each issue. Is that?
Absolutely.
And I just want to point out for people watching this interview that we're not just talking about sexual abuse. We're not just talking about women, because it could be it could be an alcoholic father that comes home and beats up a kid. I had someone in my life that used to beat me up. That was a form of abuse, and I know that made me feel uncomfortable. And having the extra weight, made me feel safer, made me feel more protected. So it's any type of violation of boundaries. It could just be somebody that's very, very interrogating, a dominant figure that's interrogating in your life. What are you doing? Where are you going? When are you coming? That's also, I said this, I said that. That's also a violation of boundaries. And so what's happening is our body's using weight to define those boundaries. So even though we're talking about the most literal sense of boundary violation of sexual abuse, it really applies to a myriad of situations for both men and women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, good. So I'm excited actually to work through a sequence with you, because this, to me, I think you've nailed it, and I think you're dealing with the real issues. So I'm wondering if you could lead us through a sequence for people. I know you say that this is, and I agree with you that this is the type of thing that you'd want to do with somebody else, but what can we do on our own to help work through some of these issues?
Um, well, I was gonna do another form of tapping today. I didn't think this subject would come
Okay.
up, but it's important.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. You can say the story out loud. You can talk about it, and you can go through the story like you're telling it to someone else. And all you have to really do is just tap all the different points while you're telling your story. And so that's a really simple way that people can manage the sexual abuse part. The other thing that we do in one of my programs where we deal with the sexual abuse, I think it's module 5. We call it kicking the offender's ass.
Nice.
And so basically what we do is, and the other thing that I found is really, really common and at the core of weight issues is suppressed anger. So, and in our Western society, anger just isn't something that, we're looked down upon if we're angry.
It's confrontative, and confrontation can lead to violence, and violence is risky. So there's a fear around expressing anger, a primal fear that it could come back in the form of abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things we do is we make a safe space to express our anger at the offender, and then all we basically do is tap while we imagine literally whatever you want to do to this person is totally fine, and you kick his ass or her ass.
That's really good. We do a visualization technique similar to that, where we imagine the person getting really, really small and just flicking them away. But just really reinventing the story, we do it, when you're in a meditative state, but doing it in a tapping way, that should be really effective too. These are unique applications to tapping, Brittany.
Well, and that's why I have a certification program, because I started tapping didn't work for me actually in the beginning for emotional eating. So I have a specific technique for emotional eating called push the food away technique that, I discovered basically on my own when I was right in the middle of a binge, and I was so pissed off that my tapping and all the things that I'd learned wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do something different, and I pushed the food away. Actually, you know what? Maybe let's do that. That's a really powerful technique, and it's something that I save for my programs usually, but I feel like we should do that because, anybody who has any kind of sexual abuse or any kind of, deep-seated anger, it's all going to stem back to a specific event. And most of the time we don't actually remember it consciously. But if we ask ourselves, and what I found is that if we ask ourselves a series of questions, whether we feel like we're making them up or not, we can actually go in and resolve the trauma and resolve the abuse without words. So it is a very different, I'm kind of a tapping renegade. I don't do the traditional form of tapping. And, some people love me for it. Some people hate me for it. So, but whatever, what I like to do is what works. So I'm happy to share
let's do it. Absolutely.
With you. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do, so this is a technique that you use when you're in the moment of a binge. So most emotional eaters, and this is what I specialize in, is emotional eating. And I specialize in people that are consciously incompetent. So it means that they are conscious that they have a problem, but they haven't quite figured out a way to solve it yet. So there can be a lot of frustration, and often they'll be eating and they know they're not really hungry, but they'll still be eating, and they're angry at themselves and they feel guilty. And I mean, I'm sure we've all had that, those moments.
Absolutely.
So what I was always so frustrated with was that I couldn't just put the food down in that moment and start tapping because I didn't know what the problem was.
Yeah.
Often we're triggered, just like you said, with the person that gets complimented. This happens a lot. How often do you lose 10 pounds? Somebody compliments you and then you go binge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you don't know what that's about. It could be sexual abuse. Right. It could be something.
You just put it down to weakness and sabotage, but there's layers and layers of things that are happening that you're not aware of.
Absolutely.
That are motivating you. Yeah.
So that was my biggest frustration, is I couldn't understand why I was doing this. I didn't know. And I mean, I have a huge background in psychology, but what this technique allowed me to do in that moment, and now, thousands of my students that I've taught it to, is push the food away and understand what's going on, tap for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then literally you go back and you look at the food, and maybe sometimes people have to do 3 rounds of it, but I would say in about 15 minutes, we have a recording, you can literally throw the food in the trash. And I don't know, I mean, I have literally walked the earth to try to find an emotional eating technique that works like this, and I had never been able to find something. So
cool.
Anyway, so let's just go through that, and you guys can learn it. And then I think we actually offer this on my website too. We offer a recording of it. So if they want to have an actual MP3 of it, they can go to my website to do that.
BrittanyWatkins.com.
Yeah, BrittanyWatkins.com.
Excellent.
Okay, so the first thing that you do, so you use this technique when you're in the moment. So maybe you're overeating, maybe you've got a Snickers bar in front of you or a box of cookies, and you know you're eating and you don't want to be eating. So what you do, and this is the hardest part,
Okay.
and sometimes I have to negotiate with myself and say, okay, I'm just gonna try this for 5 minutes, and if it doesn't work, then I can have the Snickers bar, right? So sometimes
Fair
you might
enough.
have.
Right. Right.
So this is the hard part, right? So when you are in the binge, I want you to look down at the food, and you're going to do the opposite of what you want to do. So you want to eat it, but what you're actually going to do is you're going to push the food away. So you're going to push it away about a foot out from you, and then start tapping your karate chop point. Close your eyes, and when you push the food away, you're going to feel a bad feeling. Okay?
Yeah.
So the food actually feels really good because it's helping soothe something. But when you push it away, you actually experience something bad. So start tapping the karate chop point. Close your eyes. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. How old are you right now? And most of my clients will immediately tell me a number and just go with the very first number that
Right.
comes up. So, let's say you're 6. Okay? And then I'm going to ask you another question. So see yourself as a 6-year-old. Walk over to that 6-year-old body. Step into the body. Step into her body, his or her body. Open your eyes. Take a look around and tell me what's going on, even if you think you're making it up. And start tapping through the points. So most people, if they just allow themselves to relax, will very easily be able to float back in time. And this could be a completely subconscious memory. Or it could be one that they know that they remember. But most of the time, what's funny about this is that they're memories that they never remembered consciously. So you want to just start tapping through the points, because once you step into that little kid body, you're going to start feeling uncomfortable. And while in your mind's eye, you've got your eyes open, looking around, seeing what's going on, you can either talk about it or you can feel it.
This is powerful. I like this. You know what I like about this? We do I don't mean to interrupt. I just have to interject for 1 second. We do a lot of work with visualization. That's my focus, and that's what's worked really well for me. And I like how you're combining the two in a really really effective way. I like it a lot, and it's
Well,
unique. It is very unique, Brittany. I have not. No one else is. I've interviewed maybe 10 other experts over the last 2 weeks. No one is talking about doing it this way. So I like this.
Well, I literally just discovered it because I pushed the food away and I said, okay, how old am I right now and
That's
what's going
beautiful.
on?
Yeah, no, it's good.
And we just developed it into this technique that just works every single time so beautifully.
I love it.
So the problem here that you can get stuck in is sometimes people can't actually get inside their body, because say it's a sexual abuse and
Right.
that could be really traumatizing. But the thing that I say, and it's the thing that I remind them in the reporting is, as best you can, feel all the feelings that are happening for you right now, because in 30 seconds, they're going to be gone. Because
Nice.
once you actually step into your body and you're tapping and you allow yourself to really feel all those feelings, as bad as they are, literally, maybe even in 10 seconds. The people that have done a little bit more like psychological work, that it's a little bit easier for them to really step in and feel those feelings. And sometimes it's a little bit scary at first.
Of course.
But the more fully present you can be in your body. And so this is just the first round, okay? So hopefully you're in your body, you're noticing what's going on. So maybe mom and dad are in the kitchen and they're throwing silverware at each other and they're angry and they're fighting. So you want to feel in your body, how do you feel? Are you afraid? Are you scared? Are you sad? Just keep tapping through the points and feel all the feelings. And some people, it's helpful if they say words about it. So they can say, mom and dad are in the kitchen, I feel really scared. Or you don't have to say words, you can just feel the feelings. And that's one of the things I love about this, is that a lot of people with tapping, they worry about,
It's a difference. I get it. I get it. No, it's not just about the words here. You're using visual imagery, which is so powerful in working through emotional issues, to actually step into that place. So you're not just talking about it from a distance. Because if you're talking about, I'm 9 years old, I'm really afraid, you're over there and it's over there, and that can work. But when you step into it the way you do right there, that's different. That's another dimension to this, and very creative. I think that is a unique and really powerful application of this technique for sure.
It really is. It
Yeah.
really is. So what we're doing is we're healing the childhood wound. We're
Yeah.
healing the little child, and I call these echoes. So when you're eating emotionally, and we call this echo tapping, that's our name for it. When you are eating emotionally, it's there's some little part of you that's frozen in time that's having a trauma, that's been triggered by some external event. We're not really sure what's going on that's traumatized this little kid, but they're kicking and screaming and they're trying to run away, or they're trying to go for safety, and it's not safe for them. And so by doing this, you're healing that little child in you. So let me just finish with the technique, because the last part of it is really kind of the most powerful part. So as you tap through the points and you feel all the feelings, literally what I always say is just tap until you notice your body relax, or you take a little breath. So most people, once they're through the thick of it, they'll kind of go, or they'll sit back, or they'll just kind of notice that they're relaxed. I don't use the 0 to 10 scale on this at all. Just notice when your body relaxes. And the quicker that you can allow yourself to feel those feelings, the faster you move through these feelings and feel relaxed. So within about 10 or 20 seconds, you'll just, even if you just notice that you take a slight little breath, that's good. That's all you need. And then the next part is you just keep tapping through the points while you're doing this whole visualization. And then what you do is, as an adult, you want to bring your adult self in and sit with a little child. So, go up to the little child and maybe just do whatever you feel is appropriate. Hug her, or, talk to her, or, and while you keep tapping through the points, my guidance is to tell her whatever it is she needs to know right now.
Yeah.
Because the adult knows
While you're inside that body. Is that right?
while, yeah.
So you've stepped into this 9-year-old girl. You're working through the issues, and now you're telling her what she needs to know. You're going to be okay. You're going to work through this. I'm here to help you. Is that stuff like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So actually, so what I really recommend is, I actually recommend that you step out of the little 6-year-old body, and then you
Okay.
come in as yourself, as your adult
I
self.
see.
And then you just tell her whatever the little child needs to know, whatever's going to happen in the future that's really
Yeah.
great, or give her whatever she needs right now. Maybe she just needs a friend,
It's
or
really
a
cool. It's really
love.
good. This is great. Yeah.
And just hold her or him until you'll relax to an even deeper level. Okay. And you just remember to keep tapping this whole time. So then, as you're holding her, or as you're there, I work with women a lot, so I apologize, I keep saying her. But as you're holding the little child, then what you do is imagine, and use whatever works for you. I use angels in my work, but
So
we
do I.
imagine two huge golden angels with their huge wings coming down and wrapping the two of you in golden light, in golden energy, and showering you, clearing out whatever else is there, whatever else is stuck. Is this something that you do too?
Yeah, well, in our I have a visualization called "Safe, Strong, and Protected," where a guardian angel comes down and wraps her wings around
Oh,
you, and then you feel this protection, and because you
yeah,
feel this protection, the weight melts off of you, and then as you're going through the day and there's things that are happening, this guardian angel is always there protecting you. It's
I
such a powerful image. Even I do it when I do this test with people, as we talked about, where I say, okay, let's imagine you're in your perfect ideal shape and you're walking down the street and someone looks at you in a way because you're so attractive, they're noticing you. How do you feel? And they say, I feel uncomfortable. That's like my test to see if there's an emotional need to hold on to weight. And then I do this thing. I say, let's have this guardian angel now, and now have them look at you. Can you look back and just say, smile and keep going without thinking anything, without feeling threatened? And then you get to that place. And by
yeah.
doing that, it's the same. It's the imagery that I use to help them feel safe to let go of the weights. So that's why I'm smiling. So it's because I know how powerful that technique is.
It really is.
It comes out of nowhere. You hear people just sigh. I've had people, so much pain and struggling working through emotional issues, and they start giggling. They go,
Yeah,
I don't know I just feel really light.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and and then they go on to lose weight. So that imagery, that angel imagery, works really well for people.
It does. And if you don't like angels, some people
Right.
have
I
something.
I also use a column of light.
Yeah,
For people who don't like angels or don't want, and that's fine. I have this impenetrable column of light come down and surround them.
yep. So that's the stay in there as long as you want. But then after that, ask the little girl or boy if they want to come with you or they want to stay there, because a lot of times they don't want to be left there. So we're healing them, we're saving them. So what I recommend people do is pick the little child up and put them in their adult heart, and keep tapping through the points again here, because actually what you're doing is you're growing yourself up. So once that little child is in your heart, some people even feel kind of like their brain rewiring, or like, you're literally dissipating this part of you that made a decision or formed a belief about whatever just happened.
Yeah. That's also another. I think that's a shamanic technique of integrating fragmented soul aspects.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've studied, that it's a combination of a lot of things.
It's funny because I've done every type of healing that I could ever get my hands on, and that one's works really well. Where you go and you integrate the 4-year-old who dissociated from the pain. You actually go back and you integrate. It's like a fragmented soul aspect, and you go back and you integrate that.
Exactly.
So you're putting a lot of really powerful modalities into this tapping, which is very clever.
Well, and what's so cool about it is, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to do on your own, which is why we created the recording to walk people through it. But literally, so here's what I say. So that's one round, okay? And that usually only takes about 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Go back to the food, and this is where you can use the 0 to 10 scale. Check and see if you still want to eat the food.
Yeah.
If you do, just do the same thing again. So start by noticing your desire for it, and then again push it away.
And then ask how old you are then, and it could be another age.
It's another age. It's another age.
I get why this works. You do this. You're dealing with the real issues in such a powerful way that the food's going to have no interest or effect on you whatsoever. I love the fact that you're starting with a craving, a binge, and things like that, and rather than just focusing on behavioral modification, in that moment you are getting to the core issues. You're using that urge to deal with the core issues, not just to learn how to become more disciplined, but to solve the problem. That's really excellent.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing, without having to figure out what the words are, without having to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's really excellent. I study healing modalities. That's one of the things I do, and so I get how you're integrating things in a really effective way. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad this came up. I didn't plan to share that with you.
Well, that's the way things work, isn't it?
That's needed, I guess.
Yeah. That's amazing. So this recording is on your site. And I just want to take this a step. Where on your site is this recording? So we're going to go to BrittanyWatkins.com. Where are we going to find this recording? What's it called?
It's called, if you want to end emotional eating, it's an audio recording where I talk about I think I talk about the 6 most common subconscious blocks and how you can test to see whether or not you have one. I'm too sexy is what we call, what we've been talking about today, the sexual abuse one. And then there's a bunch of others that I talk about. And then at the end of it is me walking you through the echo tapping, just like
so it's an audio recording.
It's an audio recording.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to listen to it.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Excellent.
Cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, okay, so I just have to say, before we wrap up, as I talk to a lot of tapping experts, and people are doing amazing things with tapping, but this is the most integrated form of use and application of tapping that I have ever seen in terms of dealing with the real specific issues that cause people to gain weight and finding specific ways of using visualization, soul integration, and protection, and all these different things, and putting it all together. I have no question in my mind that it works, because I see how you've applied all the applications. So I really salute you for doing such an incredible job. So
it's amazing. So what I want to make sure people know is that I've never seen anybody need to do it more than 3 times.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine that's true.
Sometimes if you do it and you go back and you still want the food, just know that you've got 2 more echoes. We call them echoes. So you've got 2 more echoes that still need healing.
Yeah.
So
you're not going to want the food after that. I get it. I really get it. You're not going to want the food. So I just want to review this because this is such good. So you're about to have some food. You push it away. You close your eyes. You say, "How old am I?" And the first number that comes up, you go into that, and then you pretend that you are that age. You pretend to open your eyes, and whatever you see or you don't see, and then you start tapping through the story. You do that a few times. Then you talk to that person, that self, as you are now, and reassure them, tell them all the good things. Then you bring two angels that wrap their wings around you and fill you with light and flush out all the different things. And then you ask that image, do you want to be part of me? And you can integrate that into yourself then, and then you see how you feel. Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
and then you come back to today, to the adult
And how do
form.
I feel right now with this bowl of food in front of me? Right?
Exactly.
Very
And you
powerful. It's
So
like,
there's a couple. So
yeah,
there's a couple things. So when you push the food away, the significance. So you can use it when right before you want to eat something,
yeah,
or when you're in the middle of something. But the significance about pushing it away is that you want to notice the uncomfortable feeling, because that's going to lead you back in time to however
sure,
old you are.
sure.
And what I always tell people to make sure that they do is I give them permission to think that they might just be making it up.
Right,
So
right.
even if you think you're making it
Right,
up, just
right.
tell me
Just
what's
go with
going on.
it. Just go with it.
Go with
Go with the number, go with the kid, go with the story, even if the story sounds bizarre or whatever it is, doesn't sound like you don't remember it, just go with it.
and go first
Don't
thing.
worry if it's real or not, just go with the first thing and let it be imagination.
Exactly. And
Got it.
so usually there'll be something that'll pop in. There'll be a number or a situation, and sometimes that'll be followed by another one.
Right.
You always want to go with the first one.
Because the reality is that even if it's not a real memory, it's symbolic. The same way
Yeah.
dreams are symbolic. So it might be symbolic of a memory that you don't even want to have because it's so painful, and your
Yep.
body's using your subconscious is using that as a way to bridge the gap between experiencing it and not really having to remember exactly what it was. So it can
Yeah.
be totally made up and still be very effective.
I've had people go into past lives
Yeah.
and do. And it's worked, So it's like they don't know. I mean, they could just be making it all up, but
Right.
when they went to the food,
But
they didn't want
right,
to.
and right, and it could be just symbolic of something.
Totally.
You're a warrior in your past life. Well, it could be symbolic of you being a warrior and another warrior attacking you, whatever it is. It's like the same way dreams talk to us in symbols. Our subconscious talks to us in symbols. So if it's
Yeah.
real, if it really happened, if it happened in past life, none of those things matter. It's still
Yeah.
communication. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So is there anything else you want to leave before we go to leave our
No, that's
listeners?
it. I
Okay.
mean, just, again, I want to remind people that when they use this, they might have to do a little bit of negotiation at first, because you're not going to want to push the food away,
Right.
Um,
And that charge really will help determine how effective it is. A really strong charge, whatever it is that you're going to be remembering, is a really important memory to work through.
exactly.
It's so unique what you're doing, really unique.
Yeah.
And I can tell just from my own experience of working with different modalities that this is going to work. So I'm really excited with this.
Yeah. It's the only thing I've ever found that works when you're right in the middle of eating emotionally. Nothing else ever worked for me. And maybe the other things work, but for me, nothing.
The reason why none of those things, I don't ever place any credence on them either, because they never address the real issues, and that's
Yeah.
why they don't work. But what you're doing is you're actually stopping in that moment, saying, "Let's look at the real issues.
Yeah.
Let's use this as a way to identify issues." So that's why it works, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's an advanced technique, but hey, if you've been eating emotionally for a long time, if you've been trying to lose weight.
Yeah. You're ready for this. Yeah, excellent. Brittany, this was a shocker. This was a real surprise and really an eye opener. So I very much appreciate your time and your wisdom and the experiences that you had to develop this. It's just really I just appreciate all of it. So thanks so much for sharing this with us.
Thanks so much for your work as well.
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. That was a fabulous, fabulous session. Very informative, very unique applications of tapping for working through specific real issues. I love the fact that Brittany understands that weight is sometimes a result of emotional trauma and our body's trying to protect us, and we have to get to the root cause. That is the most powerful message, and her use of tapping to resolve those issues is really unique and I think quite fabulous. So I would encourage you to go to her site and download the free audio that explains the tapping sequence that we just did and give it a try. So thanks everyone for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.